Hey there everybody, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Puborama, and in today's video, I will be ranking every single JDM in Grand Theft Auto Online. There's a lot of them, about 37 in total we're going to be going over in today's video. Some of them are incredibly nice, and some of them not so much. In front of you, we have 4 cars. This is our D tier. We have a B tier, an A tier, and an S tier. I'll be ranking all of these vehicles, obviously, to my opinion on what I think is the best and the worst. So, let's get straight into it. Starting off, we have the Karen Boor, B-O-O-R, I really don't know how to pronounce it. It's an incredibly weird off-road vehicle. I've never actually really been sure what this is based off of, but it's an incredibly unique looking car. It's pretty fun to drive, and it's actually decently good at off-roading. I'm definitely not going to put it in a D tier, but I'm going to put it in B. I don't think there's anything particularly special about this vehicle to warrant it being in any better of a class. Up next, we have the Karen 190Z, one of my favorite sports classics available in Grand Theft Auto Online. The car sounds amazing, it drives really, really well, and it's just an incredibly nice looking car. Even with this kind of hideous livery, the car still looks really, really cool. I'm very easily going to be putting this in S tier, just because I'm a big fan about the car. Now, I should point out now that this list is obviously subjective to my opinion. It's not necessarily a list based on handling or top speed. This is me just ranking the cars on how I like them, on their looks, their overall handling, and how I personally connect to them. So if you disagree, let me know in the comments down below with any of the cars I put in here, if you'd rank them higher or lower, which obviously out of 37 cars, there's gonna be some disagreements. Next up, we have the Dinka Blista Compact. I'll be real, I'm not the biggest fan of this car. There's not much customization available, there's no liveries or anything of that sort. It's kind of a funky looking vehicle as well. I know there's some people out there that like it, but I am definitely not the biggest fan of this car. So yeah, I'm gonna be sliding it into the D category. It doesn't handle well, it doesn't really have anything special going for it. Up next, we have the Dinka Blista Conjo. This is actually a really cool car. I love the customization it has. It's a vehicle that I don't think a lot of people think all too much about, but I just think it looks really cool. A fun little fact is it is actually front-wheel drive, which isn't too common to find in a lot of vehicles for Grand Theft Auto Online. So I'm going to be putting this into the A category. I don't think it's S tier worthy because there are cars that I think are cooler, but it's still a really unique vehicle. It's got great customization, decent speed and handling, and it just looks really, really cool. Moving on, we have the Calico GTF, which is honestly a really cool car. I'm a big fan of it because not only is it one of the best tuners vehicles for racing, but it just looks really unique, which I'm actually a big fan of. Again, I don't know if I would put it in S tier just because it's really just not the prettiest looking car frontally in my opinion, but it is still a cool car, great handling, overall performance is amazing, so we're going to put it into the A tier. This next car is always going to be making it into the S tier, and that is the Elegy Retro Custom. Not only does this car look absolutely fantastic, but it also features incredible handling and acceleration, making it very enjoyable to drive. You can customize this vehicle in literally any way you want, and it will always look absolutely fantastic. So yeah, easily, the Elegy Retro Custom is making its way into the S tier category. Speaking of Elegy, now we move on to the Elegy RH8, another absolutely amazing car. This is based off the Nissan GTR, and it's an incredible car. The fact that it's free and the fact that it still features great lap time and handling for being such an old vehicle easily places it into the A category. I don't think there's anything too special about it or fantastic that makes it an S tier. If Rockstar updated the car, gave it some new liveries and maybe some new customization elements, easily S tier. But right now, I think it's a little lackluster in customization, which is a bit unfortunate for how cool and unique the vehicle is. Now we get on to the Emperor ETR1, such an underrated supercar and such a cool looking vehicle. This is obviously based off the Lexus LFA, and what an amazing car it is in real life, and what a cool car it is in GTA. So this is always going in the S tier. Not only does it actually feature some of the best handling for the supers category, but it's just such a weird car, and normally I'm not a fan of weird looking vehicles, but this one, I don't know why, it's always stood out to me as such a cool, weird looking car. So yeah, it's going into the S tier for me. Next up, we have the Euros, which is honestly just such a cool looking car. I'm always a big fan of the Nissan Fairladies, and this is obviously a spitting image of one. It's got such cool customization going for it. It's just an amazing car all around. The only real disappointing part is that it's not very good on handling or acceleration, so as much as I want to put it in the S tier, there's nothing standout amazing about the car, again, that really differentiates it from the S tier vehicles. Next up, we have the Karen Fudo, which, I'll be honest, has a pretty interesting livery on it. It's not the best car on handling, acceleration, or really anything. I'm gonna be completely honest, it's probably one of the worst handling vehicles here. But just because of this livery and how absurdly interesting it is, I'm not gonna be putting it into the D tier. It's gonna be going into the B tier. It's not the worst car ever, and it's a heck of a lot better than the Blista on looks. Next up, we move on to the Fudo GTX, a vehicle that is literally just a better Fudo. It's got much more customization, some weird-ass exhaust. I'm not really sure why anybody would want that exhaust on their car, but, to each their own, I guess. It's definitely better than the Fudo, so I'll be putting it in the A tier. I just think it looks so cool, especially with the liveries and customization options. The only thing I will say I'm a bit disappointed on is the fact that these headlights don't actually pop up. I'm so sad. Next up, we have a vehicle that you probably wouldn't actually expect to be a JDM, but it is, being the Annis Hellion. It does have some similarities to the Jeep Grand Cherokee, but it's an Annis brand, which, if you actually think about it, this is more based off a Nissan Patrol than really anything else. I actually think this vehicle looks sick. It's got some super cool customization. The only thing I will say, which is a big bummer, is those headlights don't work. I hate when Rockstar puts headlights on vehicles, and then they end up not working. There's nothing exceptionally crazy about this car. It's not the fastest, nor is it the best at anything, so it'll go into the B category. It's cool looking, but that's about as far as it's gonna get. Now we move on to the Jesters. Starting off, we have just the base Jester. This is based off an Acura NSX, an absolutely incredible car in real life, and what a nice car in Grand Theft Auto Online as well. This vehicle is easily making it into the S tier category for a couple reasons. First of all, it still features incredible lap time for a sports car for even impressively how old it is. Plus, there's a Jester race car variant, which actually has some incredibly nice liveries going for it, so it's just an incredibly unique, cool looking car. It's got some great customization like that big ol' wing on the back. I'm just a huge fan of the Jester. Another S-tier vehicle rolling right on up, we have the Jester Classic. This is based off the Supra, and let's be real, everybody loves the Supra. This vehicle may not feature the best handling or top speed or really anything when it comes to the sports category, but not only does it have incredible liveries like the ones from Fast and Furious, but the car sounds amazing and it handles pretty well, enough that you'll enjoy driving the vehicle anytime you pull it out. Add that into the fact Rockstar did a fantastic job making it look like the Supra from real life, and yeah, easily this gets an S tier category. The final Jester we have is the RR, and I'll be real, this is probably the lackluster one of the bunch. To be fair, it's the fastest out of all three, and I still think it looks very, very cool. It's just, it doesn't have the same charm the other two Jesters have. I'm still going to be putting it in the A tier category, because it's a nice car, and it's one of the better tuners vehicles available. I think it is actually the fastest tuner vehicle, but as I said, just unfortunately, it doesn't really have the same charm that the other two Jesters feature, so A tier it is. Next up, we have the Dinka Conjo SJ, and I'll be real, it's a cool looking car. It's got a lot of great customization, and I'm a big fan of the liveries. The only thing that I'm not a huge fan of is that it's a coupe, which means it doesn't have great handling or acceleration or really anything that a lot of these other JDMs feature. It's not a bad car still, and it's going into the B class category. There's just nothing stand out amazing to warrant it being any higher up on the list in my opinion. Next up, we have an oldie but a goldie, the Armored Kuruma, or just the base Kuruma is what we're going to be taking a look at here. Both of these vehicles are basically interchangeable, just the normal Kuruma is a little bit faster on acceleration. This vehicle is actually incredible when it comes to rallying capabilities. It's all-wheel drive, it's got great acceleration, and it even has some decent livery options that you can see the vehicle currently has on. So, actually a really underrated and unique vehicle that got a bit of a revamp. I'm a pretty big fan of, and that's why it's going into the A category. Moving on, we have the Penumbra, which is honestly a pretty cool car. I always remembered when I was quite young, new to GTA, my friend always drove around in this vehicle, and there's never really anything exceptional about it. It is a sports car, but it's pretty slow in the sports category, and even though it does have some revamped livery customizations and a little bit more here and there to add on to the car, I still don't think there's anything really exceptional about the vehicle, so it's gonna go into the B category. It's cool looking, but that's about as far as it gets. While the Penumbra doesn't score very high, the Penumbra FF, on the other hand, is an incredible car. First of all, it looks amazing. I'm just a huge fan of small little sports cars, and that is exactly what the Penumbra FF is. And you can see just that much better acceleration right out of the gate. Not only does this car look amazing, but it also features some great liveries and some great customization. This is actually one of the few vehicles that I thought I wouldn't end up putting in the S category that I have put in here, and I just think it's such an underrated car. So that's why it's going into the S category. Next up, we have the Dinka Postalude, which is a vehicle, to be honest, I don't really know all too much about. I've never purchased it. It's one of the newer cars added into the game, but from the looks of it, this thing is tiny. I never realized how small this car is, but it is by far, I think, the smallest car in this entire list. It's a front-wheel drive vehicle, which doesn't make it incredible on speed or handling, anything like that, so we're going to be putting it into the B category. It looks kind of cool, but it's nothing that I'd ever purchase for myself. Next up, we have the Karin Previon, a vehicle that I actually love. I think its overall looks are incredibly nice, and they just remind me of the 90s when it comes to Japanese design. Because of that, this is definitely going to be making it into the S tier for me. I'm just a huge fan of this car's looks, and the engine also sounds so dang nice, so girthy, which is very rare when it comes to Japanese vehicles. Most of them carry that Wankel engine, which is more of a high-pitched hum, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Previon. Probably my favorite vehicle out of the entire list is the Annis RE7B. This is based off the Mazda 787B or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, which was an actual real Le Mans car that won Le Mans with a Wankel engine. It's an absolutely crazy story, and I've always just been a huge fan of this vehicle, not only because of its looks, but just because of how fun it is to drive, the fact that it still features incredible handling. The RE7B will always be one of my favorite cars in Grand Theft Auto Online. Next up, we have a vehicle I don't know how to pronounce the name of. It's called the Annis Ramus. Ramus? I don't know how to pronounce it. Either way, it's a cool car. Very nice looking. Again, I'm not sure why anybody would put these hideous heart-shaped exhausts on it, but I think the car's really cool. I don't think there's anything exceptional about it, though, so we're going to be putting it into the A category. It's just a nice-looking car, and that's about as much as I can say. Now we move on to a tiny vehicle, the Dinka RT3000, and it really is a Dinka car because it's tiny. It's a fun little vehicle though. It's got great acceleration, decent handling, and some fantastic customization going for it. I love being able to see through the hood as well and just look at that engine in there. Such a cool idea from Rockstar. It's definitely an A tier car. I wouldn't say it's anything more just because, again, there's nothing standout crazy about the vehicle, but it just looks cool. It's got some great customization, which seems to be the case for a lot of the JDMs in GTA. Next up, we have one of the weirdest looking cars in all of Grand Theft Auto Online, which is the Annis S80RR. It's a Le Mans vehicle, which is cool. I'm a big fan of Le Mans vehicles. I just think this one looks so incredibly weird. But don't get me wrong, it's a very fast car. It's a bit faster than the RE7B, and because of that, it is going into the S tier category. It's basically just the newer version of the RE7B. Cool looking. The only difference I'll say that I dislike is that it doesn't feature two doors. Or not two doors, but two seats, which we can see the RE7B does feature. But apart from that, it's just a great car. It's fast, cool customization, and it's such a unique vehicle. Now we break into the only other sports classics in this entire list, the Annis Silvestre. This is actually a car that I didn't even realize was a JDM until I started looking through all of them and scrolling through the names. The Silvestre is a weird vehicle. It features machine guns that you can mount on the front. I'm not really sure why, to be honest, but you can mount them there. They don't really do much, though, so I wouldn't suggest to mount them. It's just kind of a waste of money. The Silvestre is fast. It's got some cool little grill accessories. You can see here, we can see little engine scoops coming out of it, but overall there's nothing, you know, crazy about the vehicle or anything that I would put it into the S tier category for, but it is a nice looking car. Moving on, we have the Dinka Sugoi, a vehicle that is obviously based off the new Honda Civic Type R. Because of that, it's front-wheel drive, which is actually kind of weird because it features a really good top speed for a front-wheel drive vehicle, over 120. It also looks really nice in my opinion. It's got some fantastic customization going for it. It's probably the only front-wheel drive vehicle I'll be putting into the S tier category, because how can you not like a Civic Type R? Add that into the fact it's front-wheel drive and it's a four-door. It's got so many different customization options. It's just a really cool vehicle. The Sultans have arrived, and there is quite a bit of Sultans in the game. Starting off, we have the Sultan just base, and this car is the start of all the others, so because of that, I actually rank it quite high. I don't think it's an S tier category because it does need some new liveries and customization options, but I do still feel that this is an A tier vehicle just for how cool and unique it is. The Sultan RS is just a much cooler and better version of the Sultan in my opinion. While the Sultan is better at rallying, and it's actually still a really good vehicle for the performance, especially because it's a street car, the Sultan RS just looks so much better. It's not only that, but it's a supercar, and I mean, you got a Princess Robot bubblegum livery, how can you not like that? Overall, just a really awesome car. So many different customization options. Even though it's not the best on handling and everything else, I still think it's by far one of the coolest JDMs available. The next two Karin Sultans are basically the same car, they're just different variations of the same vehicle. You can see we've got kind of like a wide body kit on the one classic versus a non-wide body kit on the other. So we're just going to use the better one, which is the Karin Sultan RS Classic versus just the normal Classic. This is the best tuner's vehicle in a lot of people's opinion because it does have absolutely fantastic handling. I'm not going to put it into the S tier for one reason and one reason only. I just don't think it looks that amazing. I mean, yeah, it's got some cool customization, and it's a nice looking car, but I don't know, it just doesn't stand out that much to me to put it into the S tier category. I think the Sultan RS just looks so much more unique and distinguished, and basically all the vehicles in the S tier category, where the Karin Sultan Classic is just more of a, I don't know, just a 90s car at that. Oh yeah, one of my favorite JDMs to roll up is the Emperor Vector. This is based off the Lexus RCF. Personally, I think Rockstar needs to add more of the Lexuses into the game because they not only sound absolutely amazing, but they look so dang nice. I'm just a huge fan of Lexus, and the RCF, one of the cooler Lexuses in my opinion. So easy S tier. Not only that, but the Vector has fantastic handling. It's in fact tied with the Sultan RS Classic when it comes to lap time in the tuners category, which makes it one of the best cars. It's super cool looking, it just doesn't have the best top speed. And then there were 5. Starting off, we have the Warrener, which is a weird car, I'm not gonna lie. I wish that it had more customization, because it really is a unique looking vehicle. It's not the worst on handling or anything like that, it's just, there's nothing special about it, and when you add into the fact that it has really no livery options, I can't put it anywhere higher than B. It's definitely not a D tier category vehicle, but it's nothing higher either. The Warrener HKR, on the other hand, now this is a cool vehicle, just because of how much customization it has going for it. First of all, I had no clue you could turn this thing into a pickup truck, which is just absolutely epic. It also looks amazing, it's got some super cool liveries going for it. This vehicle, it's not going to go into the S tier category, because I just don't know enough about it. I really have never purchased this car, and I don't know anything if it's great on handling, so I'm just going to put it in the A tier, but just from looks, it is such a cool looking vehicle. I'm a big fan of pickup trucks. In fact, I own a 1983 Hilux in real life, and this kind of just reminds me of my Hilux for how small it is. Next up, we have the Annis ZR350, which I am a massive fan of. It looks amazing, it sounds amazing because it's got that Wankel engine, it's got absolutely crazy customization options going for it. I always love this vehicle, plus it's got pop-up headlights. I mean, right now it doesn't have any headlights due to the customization options that were put on it, but I'm a big fan of pop-up headlights. I'm a big fan of the car in general. It's such a cool car. Next up, we have the ZR380, one of 2 only armored vehicles in the entire list. Now, I'll be real, the ZR380 looks pretty ugly with this current configuration, but my personal ZR380 definitely changes that look up. I actually think this looks incredibly cool, and because of that, I'm putting this car into the S tier category. First of all, it's got a literal, like, rocket boost almost, or like a, I don't know what you want to call the boost, but essentially when you press the A button on your remote, you get a jet like flying out of your exhaust pipes, and the NOS just kicks in and launches you up to actually being the fastest car out of every single one in the list here. But it also does have armor, which is pretty cool. It's one of the only armored cars, as I said. It's just a really cool car, so easily that vehicle is making it into the S tier category. And finishing off the video, we have the Annis 300R, which is probably one of my all-time favorite cars in the sports category, let alone being a JDM. It's an Amani Tech vehicle, which is cool because it can survive an absolutely insane amount of missiles. But not only that, this is based off the Nissan Z, which is a car I actually want to buy in real life. So I'm a huge fan of this car. It looks amazing, sounds amazing, and it's just such a cool vehicle, and because of that, it's easily making its way into the S category. Just like that, we have finished the video. Quite a long video at that. There's a lot more JDMs in this game than I actually expected, and surprisingly, the most that I have ranked were actually in the S tier category. But for good reason. JDMs are epic, and there's so many of them that are absolutely epic and unique. All the JDMs that go into the S tier category usually hold some sort of personal belief with me that I'm a huge fan of. The A tier cars are vehicles that I know are very good, but I'm not personally connected too much to. And then obviously the B tier cars are just kind of meh, you know, not bad, not good. They're just vehicles that I have seen, but I'm probably never going to drive. And then we got one vehicle in the D tier category. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. This took a lot of effort to put together, a lot of time to get all these cars out. And yeah, if you'd like to see more like this, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.